There is one more Final Fantasy 15 unit to be released in War of the Visions. Aranea Highwind is a cost 90 ice unit with a new Dragoon main job. So let's break down all the important information you need to know about her so that you can decide whether or not you should be pulling on this banner. And while I have your attention, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I appreciate all of the support. Let's talk about Aranea's gameplay style. She is a big-time damage dealer that uses both instant attacks and timed jumps. She has some utility in her kit. Just to name a few, she has a 100% hit, dispel, a single target imperil, and more. And also, you can't have an ice unit without giving them the pugilist sub-job, so there's that alternate attack type as well. Aranea's TMR is the Dragon Mail, which is an armor that provides some HP, defense, and spirit. The TMR ability is a one-cast 25% agility buff to the user, but it also decreases the casting time by 200 for 4 turns, so that's a nice buff duration, and Aranea doesn't actually have any cast time reduction on her kit, so it's pretty appealing so that those jumps land sooner. If you use this TMR, it means that you can't equip something like the Brigandine or the Knight's Armor, so you have to really evaluate whether or not that jump time reduction is going to be worth it. Next up is Aranea's stats, and she's looking pretty good in the attack department. 564 is 11th in the game, and that's pretty promising. She also has 3,891 HP, and that's solid. She has an 8 defense and defense buffs on her kit, on her passives, lots of defense capabilities there, and then 66 agility is a good spot to be. That's on the higher end of some of the units that we're getting, and then otherwise, like, there's nothing spectacular about her dex or her luck. She has crit damage boost on her master ability, but then no bonus to crit rate. It's kind of strange. She also has the same amount of AP as Kain and Camilo, which are both Dragoons themselves, so I'm gonna say AP is an area of concern for Aranea, and I'll explain why that is later on, but just know that, you know, she'll have to generate a lot of it to be able to do the best, to act to the best of her ability. Now, you may also be wondering if you should go to 115 or to 120 with Aranea, and this is one where the stats make me think, yeah, you should probably just go to 120, because I mean, you get 420 HP, you get 30 attack at 120, but then you also get 3 agility, and agility is something you can't pass up on. You need that, it's important. So she's 63 agility if you don't go to 120. That's a pretty big deal. And then her job level 25 skill is a 40% pierce attack and 30% defense penetration TP buff, and that pierce attack is an AoE. It hits the people on the sides of you. So this is one of 2 TP skills on her main job. It's pretty strong. Like, you might have this and then the other skill, Frost Style, whatever it's called, and then there's also a TMR ability that you might be using, but this will give her a team buff, and that's important. It can fix her AI. Otherwise, she's going to be like Victoria, where she's just running straight ahead with no cares in the world. So this is a pretty important skill to learn at level 120 as well. Air Supremacy means big damage, and Aranea is going to have some big damage. She's got 40% defense penetration on her passive ability, but then she gets 30% more from the job level 25 TP skill, and there's some on her limit burst, so she could potentially, you know, just like strip away 100% of someone's defense if she's hitting a tank with her LB. And then she also gets 40% pierce attack from that TP buff at job level 25 that we were talking about, but then a further 12% on a passive, so she can stack quite a bit of that as well. And, you know, again, she can share that with people, the 40%. And then she has a 30% single target imperil, which is obviously very important. It happens before damage on her Dragon Leap. That will mean that skill is going to do quite a bit of damage because imperils can go below 0%. And then we have that LB has that 40% defense penetration, has a 38% pierce resistance imperil. That's after the damage, but it means that if you hit a tank with this, that you're getting that, you know, near 100% defense penetration, and then you're also going to be able to like follow up with another pierce attack on that tank and really take them out if you haven't already. So we'll look more at that limit burst in just a bit. Another thing that we like to know about our damage dealers is whether or not they can survive long enough to deal damage. So with Aranea, she has solid HP. She can build quite a bit of defense. She gets 16 defense just if you have her passive and her innate defense, and then 15 more from her Frost Arts TP skill. So we're looking at 31 defense before equipment and espers. So I think there's probably a pretty good defense build that you could go with. She also has 20% missile resist, which is great for, you know, any of those missile matchups, except she doesn't have any spirit. So even though she has good missile resist, you know, she's not really reducing the magic scaling part of Jaden's damage. Like she's reducing his damage with missile resistance, but it's not like her defense is going to help her out there. And then she's got 5% to slash, which isn't amazing, you know, but -10 to magic. So she's going to get fried from any sort of magic. She doesn't have any barriers or re-raise or guts or anything like that. No evasion. She can equip armor, which is good. Like there's some really good pieces of armor that she could use to help her survivability, but she is just going to get fried by other DPS, and that's something that would be concerning to me. One thing I should add on there is that she does have jumps, so as long as she's in the air, that means she can't get hit. So hopefully there's some, you know, usability there where you're seeing her up in the air often, and that's keeping her alive. Now we'll look at Aranea's utility. She's got quite a bit. She has a 100% hit attack. It is a low range, but it has that 165 times potency, so you can definitely kill some people with that. And then she also has remove Piercer, which is going to dispel all buffs. It's going to dispel haste, and it's also going to go through guts. So people like Elena, you know, if you can actually hit them with this, then you're going to be able to go straight through any guts buff that they have. She also has a 20% agility break, frostbite on her dragon leap, which also has that 30% single target imperil. And then Angriff's spear on her sub job can inflict disable. It's a pretty low range though, but you know, if that was something that was impactful, I mean, you could definitely tune her AI to be using that. And I mean, every single unit she disables, and it can hit multiple people if they're lined up, then you'll be able to take them right out of the fight. So that's pretty good. And then we also have that Pugilist sub that has that alternate damage type if you want to use that. We've got Shifting Strike, and we've also got the Human Killer Punch, which is a pretty good skill. So they're not bad, and she's already going to want to get up really close anyway. So if you're running into, you know, maybe a really Pierce resistant map on PvE, or maybe there's a meta where we have a lot of Pierce resist, then you could try out the Pugilist sub. But you know, keep in mind that everything she's equipping is going to be helping out her Pierce attack for the most part, except for if you have the Ice Lance, that's going to help her striking attacks too. Now for some fun facts about Aranea. She is immune to Frostbite and Charm, and she has a 10% resistance to Disable, which is good against the non-limit burst forms of Disable, including King Want and Dwayne. And then Aranea's counterattack is a 30% chance to proc. It's better than the usual 20%, so you should use it. And then don't forget to, don't level up her regular jump on her Dragoon sub. If you don't level it up, it's very, very slow. And you can use that to stay in the air longer when you're playing manually. If you're in a really tough PvE fight, or if you're in live PvP against other players, you can use jump to stay in the air. So if you're leveling up her Dragoon sub, don't do that to her jump ability. Aranea's Limit Burst is my favorite part of her kit. It's got that classic 200 times potency, but then it has the 38% Pierce resistance imperil that takes place after damage. The range is short, but it's huge. Like it doesn't go that far, but it has a 9 square radius, and that's going to hit a lot of people, especially if there's lots of melee fighters. It also has 40% defense penetration for the attack, so if you've used that and then her job level 25 skill, you have her passive on, you're just clearing defense. It is expensive. It's an AP drainer, as pretty much every Limit Burst is, but you're still going to want to level this up because you want the damage, you want the defense penetration to be max, and you also want the imperil to be max. It's a really solid Limit Burst. Back by popular demand, I have the unit comparison. So I'm going to talk more about Aranea as just like her role in the meta later on in the pros and cons, but just in terms of comparing to specific units, there's some stats on the screen that you can look at, and I'm going to do a specific comparison to Victoria because she's also an Ice Dragoon, and people might think, well, I've got a Victoria lying around, should I just EX her? And I am going to EX my Victoria, by the way. But Aranea has a lot more going on. She's got more utility. She has way more attacks that are available to her besides jumps that scale off of pierce attack, whereas Victoria just has her jumps and then she has to dip into slash attacks. Victoria also doesn't have any defense or pierce penetration, just a defense break, which is good. But then Victoria overall just has these big jump potencies and the jump time reduction. Those are all like really good. But Victoria is still that same old selfish unit that runs straight ahead unless you give her a TMR that has a team buff on it. But the thing is, she also sucks at generating AP, so you want her to have bells. It makes her very map dependent and liable to just get totally fried by an enemy. So in my eyes, Aranea is a clear upgrade over Victoria. And if you're trying to debate, you really want an Ice Dragoon and you're trying to say, well, which one's the best one for my account? Aranea is better than Victoria, but if you want to save Visio and just do like a slow build on Victoria, she's still going to be a fine unit. We're also going to see a VC release for Aranea, and it's a pretty solid VC. It's an Ice VC with attack stats, a little bit of defense, and then it has the unit effects of having some missile resist and more attack. And I love having resists on a bestowed effect because that stacks with the party effect. So if you really wanted to build like a strong resistance build, then you could do that with this type of VC with an Ice unit specifically, and that's definitely going to help the Aranea anti-missile party. So it also has AoE resist 20%, so we have a lot of ways to get this now. We have Death Machine, and we also have the Holiday Party, and then now there's element specific ones. So if you already have those two VCs, you might not really want this one. However, it is good to have that in like your various elements with added bonuses. So for example, with this one, you do get that 18% pierce attack and then 25% critical rate, which is actually something that Aranea needs to crit and then do some more crit damage, and the pierce attack helps her as well. At the end of the day, I don't think this is a must pull for her. I think she's already plenty strong. She already has that 40% pierce attack buff. You could also use Mask of Deceit on her, which gives her 35 pierce attack and 20% missile resistance. So that kind of makes this, in my eyes, not really necessary. I think that a new player starting out during the Final Fantasy 15 collaboration would definitely want to pull this with their Aranea to then just be set up going forward with a great VC for her. But if you're an experienced player, then I don't see that this VC is worth actually spending Visio on. Now it's time to talk pros and cons, and there's actually more cons on this one, but we'll start with the pros, don't you worry. Aranea's got some big damage. She's got useful add-ons to her skills, the 100% hit, the ignore guts, the dispel. Those are really powerful. When you hit a tank that maybe they have dual resist on, you're hitting a King Mont. I mean, you're kind of in trouble if you're hitting a King Mont because she's ice, but either way, you can just take that double resist off of them with the dispel, and then you can deal more damage. So like that's really good. Her kit looks amazing. She's got that 4 jump for mobility and then Dragon Standard, which is mostly for manual play, but there's ways that you can use it on auto if you really need to. And then her limit burst, it's so good. I think it's honestly going to be really, really powerful, and you're just going to have these matches where it kills the whole other team, and it's going to be so satisfying. Unfortunately, we do have a lot of cons for Aranea. She's got no physical barrier break, and that's kind of going to be a bit of a problem if there is somebody that has one up. And then she also has shorter range, except for on her jumps, but then she needs time to land. If there's fast units that are, she doesn't have time to use these jumps without a cast time reduction, then, you're just going to be out of luck. You want to use her TMR for that reason, and don't think that you can go using Siren Esper just because it has pierce resist, it has slash resist, pierce attack up, and that it has that cast time reduction. I did the math, it doesn't really help you out very much at all, so that's not going to be the best Esper for her anyway. It's going to be that Elk thing or something like Titan. And then her survivability is just weak compared to her competition. Like there's no re-raise guts, barrier, evasion, any of those things that help people stay alive, because right now there's just too many units that kill people really quickly. So you need to have a little bit of survivability. If you do have zombie Ryryu's TMR, then that would probably be pretty good for her anyway. And then she doesn't help your allies out. Unless you're running a Pierce comp, she doesn't give a buff to anybody that's really gonna help. So she's really limited to doing what she does and you really got to support her. She's not going to support you. And then I did a bit of math again, and she's going to have, this is with like Odin as her Esper, let's say, just because it has a lot of AP. So if you're going for like an AP build, she's going to have like 48 to 63 AP, depending on if you did like 1 round or two rounds of buffing. And that means you could pop off an LB and not much else. So bells or another AP refresh are going to be important considerations to make. However, if you do that, now you're really stacking like these different TP skills. You want her to use that Frost Art, you want her to use her job level 25 skill for the huge damage buff, but then she's not, you know, if you gave her bells, then she's not getting her jump time reduction anymore. So I think there's a lot of work to make her successful. We've come to the end of the video, and now I have to answer the question, should you pull for Aranea? And the answer is no, you shouldn't. I think most players should skip Aranea. I think she's going to be a great damage dealer. Don't get me wrong, I just don't think she's going to carry teams like Jaden does, or Oberon, or Elena, or other units in the future that are going to be able to carry a team on their back. Her weakness to magic and even magic scaling attacks is going to be tough to get over, and there's always going to be more damage dealers on the way, and she doesn't offer you anything on top of being a damage dealer. So for example, with Prompto, like, yes, he's a damage dealer and he might not be the best damage dealer, although I think he's pretty good. He has so much utility for other types of content, or even just using his status effects. Noctis can do so many things on top of just having, you know, some damage. Like, Aranea is stronger than both of those units, but she's not going to do anything for the rest of your account. So unless you're really into ice, like my buddy Diab, or maybe, you know, she's your waifu. I don't know how this waifu thing works. Maybe you have a Pierce account and you really like Pierce units. Dragoons are like the coolest job in any Final Fantasy game. Then you're gonna love her. She's gonna put in a lot of work for you. She's not a bad unit. I just don't think that players should spend their Vizier on her when you have lots of cool stuff coming up, and there's always going to be more damage dealing units that you can go for. So unfortunately, my recommendation is a skip. That's going to be it for this video. Make sure that you comment down below if you're going to go for Aranea, and also what you thought about the video. Was it accurate? Did you like the analysis? Or maybe you have your own thoughts that you want to get out there and we can kind of talk about it. That'd be great. You can also chat to me on my Discord, the Mysidia Gaming Discord. The link for that is in the description. And otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.